Yo, what's up everyone? I wanted to make a quick video going over weapon set skill point allocation. The reason I thought to make this video is that I'm trying to hybridize two builds right now, Lightning Spear and Whirling Slash. I'm doing a lot of manipulation of my weapon set skill points, and I'm running into a lot of the confusion and gotchas that I learned and unlearned when I was first kind of understanding the game. So I wanted to go over these really quick and sort of nail down some really key points that players need to understand when they start manipulating these skill points, and when they can understand that they've done something wrong in manipulating these skill points, because there are ways that the game allows you to goof this up and actually like duplicate passive allocations and essentially lose passive points by doing it wrong. So here's kind of a breakdown of how I like to think of it that makes it very cut and dry. You need to think of it as needing 24 core points available, and that's this metric up here. Right now I only have 13. Then when you have 24 overall available, you're able to put 24 of those into weapon set 1 and 24 of those into weapon set 2, essentially getting 48 points for your 24 points. But noticing the distinction between this core and then the 1 and the 2 is really, really important. I don't think it's intuitive with how this is set up exactly. Another thing to point out is that you can accidentally allocate something to a weapon set and to a core. So right here I have these frenzy points allocated to weapon set 2, and I could, hike them back if I want to. But what's really interesting is, and I think this is the way to do it, I can go like that and then go back to core. Let's see here. How do I do this? Let me go back. I allocate these to core, and then I can hit weapon set 2. And look at that. It double allocated. So it took a weapon set point for this notable, but it also took a core point for it. So it's applying on 2 and it's applying on the core. So I lost a point essentially. And I think players run into this. I see it in the YouTube comments like, hey, how did you do that? I don't have enough points for that. And that's what happens. So when that happens, what you want to do is unallocate your weapon set, turn it off, come back and unallocate the core. And now you have all the points back. Super confusing, and I see it happen often. Hopefully I'm understanding how that goofs up correctly. I'm sure I'll get corrected if not, and that certainly can happen. Totally a potato, an old potato here. But yeah, I do see that happen to people. So then when you're allocating, for instance, in this build, I want all of these frenzy charge nodes to go onto weapon set 2. You just click the weapon set, you allocate those, apply, and click it off. And being off is being back on core, and then of course being on is being on one of the weapon sets. Now, since I only have 13 core left over, I'm going to only be able to bring this 15 down to a 2, and I'm only going to be able to bring this 14 down to a 1. So ideally, I'm going to have to refund a core point in order to allocate it to a weapon set point. And I'm having difficulty figuring out how I'm going to do that on that build, because I have enough points that I want in both sets that I need to be core, that I can't quite figure out how to unallocate correctly, and I'm going to have to sort of sort through that, but I won't go over that too much more here. Okay, now how to manage the pathing on the tree. So one thing to note is that you can only chain off of core point allocations. So if I say, let's go to weapon set 1, and let's do, a dex node here and a dex node here, and then if I go back to core, I can't allocate here. Requirements not met. You can't chain from a weapon set to core, and you can't chain from one weapon set to another one. It's going to say requirements not met, and I see this in the YouTube comments often as well, people not realizing what has happened there. So what you need to do is, when you're thinking about your chain, figure out where you want to get to with core, and then where you're going to branch off with a weapon set. Down here, I want this authority node, and it's going to go on weapon set 2. So I need to decide how far am I going to go with core and then allocate up to weapon set 2. My point of contact is going to be right here because I want to come get this jewel socket with the core points. And then I'm going to go weapon set 2, and I can branch over here with these like this. So yeah, that's one kind of solid example of that. Now I could go to weapon set 1 and allocate from here, but I cannot allocate from here with weapon set 1. Another thing to point out is that you cannot weapon set a keystone or, I'm pretty sure, a jewel. I wrote that into my notes before double testing. But if we go to weapon set 1, try and do a jewel socket. It says, nope, can't do that. Nope, can't do that. Same thing with a keystone. If I go to weapon set 1 and say I want to do Dance with Death, can't do it. But if it's a core point, I can do it. So that's a nice gotcha to realize. And the last thing to point out here with sort of pathing on the tree is that you can weapon set stats to account for requirements. So on my skill swap, my Sacred Flame is on weapon set 1. And so one thing I may want to do is take my weapon set 1 point allocations and add more intelligence to the weapon set 1 chain. And it will apply that stat chain when I'm in that weapon set. And I think that's obvious, but I do think that's something that sometimes I don't realize when I'm trying to solve for these requirements. Last thing I'll point out is how do you manage the swap in the skill gems? And this, I do think the game is pretty intuitive with this. But just to point out, when you are like micromanaging a weapon set, it is really important that after you have everything in place and you understand what's 1 and you understand what's 2, you come into your gems and you force the gems to only use what you want them to use. The other thing that's important is that if you have a skill that you want to work on both, like for instance, I don't ever want Wind Dancer to be offline, make sure it's checked for both. Again, I think that's pretty intuitive, but just to point that out, I think that's really helpful. Last thing I'll say is I do see comments often of like, yo, how did you have that many points? What did I do wrong? My best advice for you when that happens and you can't figure out how you lost your points is to take all your jewels out, hit this nice magic button up here that they just added to the game. All jewels need to be removed, and then you can refund all passives. Start over and start by allocating your core points to the nodes that you know you want to always be active, and then make sure you have 24 left over, and you can do your weapon set 1 and weapon set 2 points from there. All right, that's a very quick video. I hope that's helpful for somebody out there. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to bounce any comments, questions, or corrections for what I've said in the YouTube comments, and come join on Discord, ask any questions, and come collaborate with us if you're on Discord. Thanks, everyone.